As of 2023, China, the United States of America, France, Germany, and the UK are considered the giants of the world. These countries have the largest economies, best standard of living, best healthcare, best infrastructures, and the list continues. In Africa, Nigeria is often referred to as the giant of Africa because of the sheer size of its population and economy. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people and a nominal GDP of over $504 billion, making it the most populous country and the largest economy in Africa, thus the term giant of Africa. But if we were to use a bird's-eye view to look at Nigeria, can we really say that Nigeria is a giant in all the sense of the word giant? For starters, giant is a word associated with success. So, is Nigeria the most successful country in Africa? When we talk of successful countries, we talk of countries that are developed with systems that work properly. Education, healthcare, infrastructure, security, high standard of living are some of the factors that makes a country desirable. Can Nigeria boast of these things? Well, I guess not. If you look around the world, some of the most successful countries are not necessarily the most populated. Scandinavian countries, for example, are not necessarily the most populated countries in Europe. Neither do they have the largest economies, but these countries are some of the most successful countries in the world. Coming back to Africa, you will realize that South Africa is the only country that comes close to being a successful country on the continent, at least by African standards. And if that is the case, then South Africa is the real giant of Africa. Before we proceed, let's look at some few statistics to establish the fact that South Africa is the real chief daddy of Africa. South Africa is a very beautiful country. As of 2023, it has a population of over 60 million people, spread across 1.2 million kilometers of land. It is the 9th largest country in Africa by land area and the 6th most populous country in Africa. Despite the fact that it comes in at 3rd position when it comes to GDP, it however has a GDP per capita 3 times higher than that of Nigeria at $6,500. When it comes to development, South Africa is hands down the most developed country in Africa, with a Human Development Index of 0.7, which is similar to Brazil's, the largest country in South America by every standard. South Africa has the 3rd most powerful passport in Africa, the 9th strongest currency, and the 2nd strongest military in Africa. In comparison, Nigeria, which is currently considered the giant of Africa, has an extremely low Human Development Index of 0.5, one of the worst passports in Africa, one of the worst currencies in Africa at 30th place, and comes in at 4th place when it comes to military strength. Both countries have a vibrant entertainment industry with some of the biggest music and film festivals hosted there. South Africa has some of the best airports, airlines, and is the only African country that has ever hosted a FIFA World Cup. According to statistics, more Nigerians relocate to South Africa to start a new life than South Africans relocating to Nigeria. All these should inform you that South Africa is the real giant of Africa. If this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss any of our videos. Now let's look at the economy of South Africa. South Africa has a mixed economy, the 3rd largest in Africa, after Nigeria and Egypt. It also has a relatively high gross domestic product per capita compared to other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. One major problem in South Africa is its high rate of income inequality. Of course, that is the reality of most African countries. In 2015, 71% of net wealth are held by 10% of the population, whereas 60% of the population held only 7% of the net wealth. Principal international trading partners of South Africa, besides other African countries, include Germany, the United States, China, Japan, the United Kingdom, and Spain. The 2020 Financial Secrecy Index ranks South Africa as the 58th safest tax haven in the world. The South African agricultural industry contributes around 10% of formal employment, relatively low compared to other parts of Africa, as well as providing work for casual laborers and contributing around 2.6% of GDP for the nation. Due to the aridity of the land, only 13.5% can be used for crop production, and only 3% is considered high potential land. In August 2013, South Africa was ranked as the top African country of the future by FD Intelligence based on the country's economic potential, labor environment, cost effectiveness, infrastructure, business friendliness, and foreign direct investment strategy. The official national marketing agency of the South African government, with the goal of promoting tourism in South Africa both locally and globally, is known as South African tourism. South Africa offers both domestic and international tourists a wide variety of options, among others, the picturesque natural landscape and game reserves, diverse cultural heritage, and highly regarded wines. Some of the most popular destinations include several national parks, such as the expansive Kruger National Park in the north of the country, the coastlines and beaches of the KwaZulu-Natal and Western Cape provinces, and the major cities like Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. According to South Africa's latest tourism and migration survey, almost 3.5 million travelers passed through the country's ports of entry in August 2017. The top 5 overseas countries with the largest number of tourists visiting South Africa were the USA, UK, Germany, the Netherlands, and France. Most of the tourists arriving in South Africa from elsewhere in Africa came from SADC countries. Zimbabwe tops the list at 31%, followed by Lesotho, Mozambique, Eswatini, and Botswana. In addition, more than 30% of tourists visiting South Africa are from Nigeria. Education. South Africa has a 3-tier system of education, starting with primary school, followed by high school, and tertiary education in the form of academic universities and universities of technology. Learners have 12 years of formal schooling from grade 1 to 12. Grade R, or grade 0, is a pre-primary foundation year. Primary schools span the first 7 years of schooling. High school education spans a further 5 years. The National Senior Certificate Examination takes place at the end of grade 12 and is necessary for tertiary studies at a South African university. Public universities are divided into 3 types: traditional universities, which offer theoretically oriented university degrees; universities of technology, which offer vocationally oriented diplomas and degrees; and comprehensive universities, which offer both types of qualifications. There are 23 public universities in South Africa, 11 traditional universities, 6 universities of technology, and 6 comprehensive universities. Some of the universities found in South Africa are some of the best on the continent. Healthcare. South Africa has one of the best healthcare systems in Africa. With some state-of-the-art healthcare facilities in multiple South African cities, the country is actively working to improving its healthcare system. The healthcare spending in the country is about 9% of GDP. About 84% of the population depends on the public healthcare system. About 20% of the population use private healthcare. Only 16% of the population are covered by medical aid schemes. The rest pay for private care out of pocket or through in-hospital only plans. The 3 dominant hospital groups, Mediclinic, Life Healthcare, and Netcare, together control 75% of the private hospital market. Infrastructures. When it comes to infrastructures, South Africa is hands down the best in Africa. The country has some of the most beautiful buildings and roads in Africa. Cape Town, for example, was once voted as the most beautiful city in the world. South Africa has a total road network of 750,000 kilometers, which makes it the largest road network in Africa and the 10th largest in the world. According to SANRAL, the road network is valued at more than 2.1 trillion rand. SANRAL manages national roads and has a network of 22,197 kilometers of paved roads. Provinces are responsible for 222,951 kilometers, while, according to the DOT, the municipal network is estimated at 275,661 kilometers of the proclaimed network. The rest are unproclaimed gravel roads, mainly serving rural communities, and are therefore not owned or maintained by any road authority. The country has more than 12 million motor vehicles, with an average density of 16 motor vehicles per kilometer. Amongst the top 10 best airports in Africa, South Africa has at least 4 airports on the list. Military. The South African Army, the South African Air Force, the South African Navy, and the South African Military Health Service are the national defense forces of South Africa. In recent years, the SANDF has become a major peacekeeping force in Africa and has been involved in operations in Lesotho, the DRC, and Burundi, amongst others. It has also served in multinational UN peacekeeping forces, such as the UN Force Intervention Brigade. According to Global Firepower, South Africa is ranked the 33rd out of 145 nations in terms of military strength, and it is the second strongest in Africa. South Africa is the only country in Africa, and one of the few in the world with an arms industry capable of producing sophisticated military equipment, such as attack helicopters, armored fighting vehicles, infantry weapons, missiles, and UAVs, which puts it on par with those of USA, Germany, Russia, and China, giving it a big advantage in the military field. South Africa is the only African country to have successfully developed nuclear weapons. It became the first country, followed by Ukraine, with nuclear capability to voluntarily renounce and dismantle its program, and in the process signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in 1991. South Africa undertook a nuclear weapons program in the 1970s. According to President F.W. de Klerk, the decision to build a nuclear deterrent was taken as early as 1974 against a backdrop of a Soviet expansionist threat. South Africa is alleged to have conducted a nuclear test over the Atlantic in 1979, although this is officially denied. De Klerk maintained that South Africa had never conducted a clandestine nuclear test. 6 nuclear devices were completed between 1980 and 1990, but all were dismantled by 1991. In 2017, South Africa signed the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Science and technology. Several important scientific and technological developments have originated in South Africa. South Africa was ranked 61st in the Global Innovation Index in 2021, up from 63rd in 2019. The first human-to-human heart transplant was performed by cardiac surgeon Christiaan Barnard at Groote Schuur Hospital in December 1967. Max Steyler developed a vaccine against yellow fever. Alan MacLeod Cormack pioneered X-ray computed tomography, CT scan, and Aaron Klug developed crystallographic electron microscopy techniques. Cormack and Klug received Nobel Prizes for their work. Sidney Brenner won most recently, in 2002, for his pioneering work in molecular biology. Mark Shuttleworth founded an early internet security company Thought that was subsequently bought out by world leader Verisign. It is the expressed objective of the government to transition the economy to be more reliant on high technology, based on the realization that South Africa cannot compete with Far Eastern economies in manufacturing, nor can the Republic rely on its mineral wealth in perpetuity. South Africa has cultivated a burgeoning astronomy community. It hosts the Southern African Large Telescope, the largest optical telescope in the Southern Hemisphere. South Africa is currently building the Karoo Array Telescope as a pathfinder to the 1.5 billion euros square kilometer array project. The truth is, South Africa is not yet a developed country. The country is still developing, but on a grand scale of things, the country is relatively doing well and can be considered the real giant of Africa. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, do well to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.